Welcome to Culture Couch. This week we're talking about the differences between road tripping in America versus road tripping in Australia. And at the end of this video, we're going to talk about our experiences with Australian road rage. I have to slam all four tires, like I'm slamming the brakes. We stop, we look over at him, he's got his window down and he is... All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Culture Couch.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. All I know is I'm gonna be very conscious of how many times I say the word like this week. If I had $1 for every comment about me saying the word like,
Oh, was there more than one person?
So many comments about it.
Oh, dang. Okay. All right, cool.
This week we're gonna talk about Australian road trips, first of all, and American road trips.
Yeah.
If you're an OG subscriber of this channel, first of all, if you're not a subscriber, take a second, go subscribe, come back to us. If you're an OG subscriber, you know that I promised that I was going to do this video a long time ago where I'd do a road trip in America, vlog it, and then do a road trip in Australia, vlog it, and then do this video where I kind of cut back and forth of what are like the differences in that road trip. It hasn't happened yet, and honestly, like I think it'd be cool to still do it, but it would take so long. Like I have to go to America, do a road trip here, and really plan that out. And I honestly just like feel like I'm not that professional in it yet. So I haven't done it.
It would require a lot of planning and it would probably take 3 months minimum to film.
So I wanted to do that originally because I've done a bunch of road trips in my life in America, and I feel like there's just so many places to road trip in America. And Grace and I have done so many road trips. We've driven so far together.
Man.
Not only have we driven so far together, but we've driven I think we've driven the furthest I've ever heard of a couple driving in one day together, which was 21 hours.
Yep.
21 hours from sunup way beyond, actually before the sun was up, way beyond when the sun was set. We drove from Omaha, Nebraska, all the way to Asheville, North Carolina. We stopped so many times because we had a puppy and it needed to pee. And honestly, like, not only did it need to go, but we were just like worried it was gonna go in the car, so we just kept stopping.
Yeah.
And it just piled up to be like 21 hours.
Oh man,
be on the road.
I just remember specifically from that trip that we were going through Nashville at 10 p.m. We had already been in the car for 16 hours, and I remember thinking Nashville is 4 hours away from Asheville without stops, and it's 10 p.m. And we've been in the car for 16 hours. It was just so far.
Yeah, I feel like that night just kept on dragging. I feel like that's true for any road trip. If you haven't reached a critical point by like dinner time, and you still have a bulk to go, it's just gonna drag on.
Totally.
Usually like that would probably be the place where I would just go get a hotel.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we weren't gonna do that because we had no money, so.
I also feel like anybody that knows us as the road tripping couple.
We did two pretty big road trips in Australia. The first one was we went up to Brisbane from Sydney.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big road trip. I don't know what that is
10
total.
hours.
10 hours?
Yeah.
It's a pretty big first one.
Yeah.
And then the second one we did was from Sydney to Adelaide, which is how long? 16 hours?
Well, it's 14 and a half without stops.
But you have to have stops, obviously. And that was an eye-opening experience. And so we've done these road trips. That's all to say, like, I definitely have more experience in America, good and bad.
But between us,
we have quite a bit of experience.
Yeah.
You guys have road tripped all over when you were kids.
Yeah,
in Australia.
So much.
I feel like Australian families do road trip quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially like around the perimeter, maybe not all the time through the middle.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've done a lot of road trips and we love them, and I feel like there's something we realized pretty quickly, and Grace already knew this, but I think she was waiting. She had hinted at this so many times, talked about it so many times.
Yeah, we talked about it on different trips in the States. Before you came here, I made some mentions of it.
Yeah, we talked about how different Australian road trips and American road trips are, but I just didn't, I don't know, like someone can tell you something so many times, but until you see it yourself, like you can't understand.
No, and it's just something that I feel like doesn't get taught about very often.
One of the things I think is like the biggest, I'm just gonna talk about the biggest like shock when it came to difference.
Okay.
So I had this moment where, we took this trip from Sydney to Adelaide, and we actually haven't talked about this a lot since I've thought about it a lot. But we're on the way back, I think. It was on the way back. And just from Sydney to Adelaide, like there's just not much in between. There's a few towns. There's this town, Hay, that's in the middle. If you know about Hay, then you know. We always joke about if something's really far away, it's like in Hay, because it's just so far out there. It just feels like you're in the middle of nowhere out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know where we were on this trip. I don't know what point this was on the trip, but I think it was from Adelaide to Hay. So it was the first leg of the trip. I get in the car and I'm in the back seat of the car. It's 4 of us, Grace's parents and me and Grace, in this Subaru Impreza. And we're driving back, which is like a small car, I feel like, for 4 people to do a trip that long.
Especially when everyone's around 6 feet
Yeah,
tall.
we're a tall family for sure. A few hours into the trip, I'm starting to feel sick. We're driving so far into like the middle of nowhere. And for those who are Americans that are listening or watching, Australians already know this. I feel like the perimeter of Australia has really, really big roads, like really big, for the most part, like
solid highways.
Huge highways that go up, motorways that go up and down to most cities. But in the interior, it's like one lane road, no divider or anything, and you're going 110 kilometers per hour, which is what, 80, somewhere 70, 80?
70-ish, yeah.
I vividly remember like this part of this road was like really bumpy. And so I get to the point where I'm like, oh man, I need to go to the bathroom like really, really bad. I'm with Grace's parents as well, so I'm like not trying to announce that I have to like go to the bathroom like it's a dire situation. And so I kind of quietly am like on my phone looking up like, where's the next place that I can stop? And I don't know which part of the road we're on, but there's just nothing. Like, there's nothing for a long way.
Yeah.
I think this was actually further into the day, but anyway, it's nothing for a really long time. And I started to get like worried. I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? Like, at first I was like, maybe I can hold it, but there was no holding it. It was getting worse.
Getting dire.
I was feeling sicker, feeling like I needed to go really, really bad. Anyway, I'm like, at this point I mentioned it to Grace. Grace, we mentioned it to her parents, and we're all like, oh, like.
And I'm like, it's getting. It's
kind of like
serious.
silent in the car. I was like, oh, like, you might have to stop on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. There's no big trees you can hide behind. It's pretty flat. Like, there's not really anywhere you can go hide and like have a private moment to yourself. So I'm just like, I'm fully freaking out. And luckily, well, I don't know how this happened, but luckily we come up on this
rest stop.
Yes, little rest stop, like in the middle of nowhere.
If you can even call it that.
It was literally a swamp. It was literally a swamp, like water, trees, swamp, and then this little hut, like little like block building that's 2 stories. The bottom story is where your business goes.
I have PTSD from this.
The bottom part is where it collects, right?
Yes.
And then there's a ramp up to the second level, and it's just a hole. It's a toilet, a hole.
Yeah.
It's like a little bowl, hole, and no plumbing.
And you don't realize until you go in.
Yeah, it hits you pretty quickly, the smell of the chemical and whatever that's below.
I'm not exaggerating. It's the worst thing I've ever smelled. I'm not even kidding.
So I get in there and I make it, and yeah, it wasn't like I unsurvivable. Like obviously I've been in parts of the world where I like have to have, there's not a bathroom and you're in the middle of nowhere, but to be on a road trip here and just to compare that to the fact that in America I have like, you just have like a McDonald's on every exit, you have
Starbucks
options, you have gas, you have a gas station on every single exit.
Yeah.
And so you're pretty much covered, like you're gonna get.
Totally.
Unless you're in like Utah or like in the middle of nowhere.
And even then I feel as though even when you're going through the plains of Utah where there's nothing, you would never go more than an hour without having some kind of gas station.
Yeah.
But here, it can be an hour and a half sometimes, 2 hours until you're between, like when you're between towns.
You don't have as many in between towns.
Yeah, especially when you're driving specifically from Sydney to Adelaide. It's a very interior route, and so there's not a lot of population.
So that was
centers.
like a real wake up moment for me. I was like, man,
You're not in America anymore.
I'm not in America anymore. need to like plan out my road trips.
Yeah. I was going to say, I have something to say on that. In that vein, is that when you're road tripping in America, on pretty much every exit, there's a sign that says like food, gas, lodging, and it will have a few photos of the different options that are available. In Australia, you'll get maybe, if you're lucky, like a little rectangular blue sign that will have like a coffee cup, a knife and fork, and then a restroom sign to indicate that there's something off this exit, but you don't know what it is. It will never tell you that you've got a McDonald's off this exit.
Yeah, you need to know things about the trip before you set out on it, much more in Australia. I think that because of that, in America, there's a sense of just you're good, it's comfortable. But I think because of that, you get a lot, there's not really much unexpected to your trip. When I was going to college, I took my Jeep Wrangler and took this trip across this like 1999 Jeep Wrangler across the entire country from the East Coast to the West Coast. And I didn't stay in hotels. I was self-camping the whole time in my rooftop tent. And that gave it a sense of adventure, but I think there's a sense of adventure doing road trips in Australia that you don't get in America because, yeah, like you're gonna have to get food at a local place. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to wait until you find something. Whereas in America, it's just like pretty quickly. Like, you just hop off, hop on.
Totally.
Which, yeah, I think it makes you want to do it probably a little less.
Want to do what?
Like, do you think Australians would rather fly more often? Definitely across the country.
Yeah.
Like to Perth.
Definitely. I would never consider road tripping to Perth. It also would take about 40 hours. It's...
When you look at Australia and the US on the map, pretty similar size.
It takes about the same amount of time to drive from Seattle to Miami as it does from Sydney to Perth. Or not Sydney to Perth, from Brisbane to Perth.
But once you get...
Pretty sure.
There's going to be a lot of that trip that you're going to be planning out.
Yeah.
Getting groceries maybe, like having snacks on the road.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is fun. I think that's like... Honestly, we don't have a car that's like super great for doing like carrying a lot of stuff cross country. Like
it would be fine for the two of us.
Specifically to like enjoy the landscape. There's no surprise to me why Land Cruisers are and like Hiluxes and like trucks are so expensive here. It's because a lot of people want to go take them out and go do a road trip, but maybe spend a few hours driving onto some trail to some waterfall or something, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like it's not as big a thing in America because you don't really need to. You just have like any car and just go anywhere, and there's already infrastructure built for pretty much anything. You don't really need to like, there's not as much, I don't think there's as much adventure when it comes to what we might find or who's going to be there or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously there's like popular spots in Australia.
Yeah, but I feel like you can get off the beaten path a lot quicker in Australia.
And I think that's a part of the appeal for sure.
As an Australian, I think that this whole road trip comparison thing, you can't understand it until you've done it in America. I don't know, it's just so much easier to do road trips in America when you know that you have little things to break up your day. So you can get Starbucks for breakfast and then Chick-fil-A for lunch and then get something else for dinner and stay a little bit longer. And there's different options the whole time, which again comes back to what we were talking about last week about variety and convenience. It just reflects in the road trips, I'd say too. When
we say that, and we say everything in this like topic and every topic we talk about, I think there's like positives and negatives.
Yeah.
I think it's immediately uncomfortable when you go from an American road trip to an Australian road trip. Yeah, I think another thing too, this is a really big learning moment for me, was I was put in charge at some point. We went to Brisbane. I got put in charge to find us like a breakfast place on the way back. And this was like one of the biggest struggles of my life. Like I just felt like such a struggler because I'm like looking up all these places to go eat using Google Maps, using Apple Maps, whatever I can, TripAdvisor, Yelp, like anything I can get. And trying to find like places to eat in these towns that we're going to. Mm-hmm. And something that I found that, I don't know whether it's like a cultural thing or whether it's just the way it is, or maybe it's just because it's not like as capitalist here, but I feel like businesses do not put their hours or like menus updated or like reviews are like all scattered through TripAdvisor and a few different places.
Google.
Whereas in America, like pretty much it's,
Yelp.
You can go Yelp.
Yeah.
Like Yelp is for reviews. Like you want to see if the place is good, has good photos. And then if you want to use any maps you want to use, is going to be like tied to Yelp.
Yeah.
TripAdvisor is like the closest thing I feel like it's decently used. But I was in charge of like getting us all to breakfast, and there's already a whole lot of pressure because I'm like choosing a place for me and Grace, which is already pressure. And then there's like choosing for your in-laws. Yeah. And which they're like so easygoing.
They're so chill.
And so we finally found this place, like breakfasty place, and it was just so average. Like it was just not great.
Yeah.
It's just really inconsistent. Like you might have a really, really great time, find a really, really cool spot, but you just don't know what you're gonna get. So that was a big realization for me. I feel like another thing that is so true in Australia and pertains to road trips, I feel like I'm a lot safer on the roads here. The speeding tickets are super high, and a lot of people get speeding tickets very often here. So I feel like that regulates the roads really well. And when you're on a road trip, you don't feel the pressure to go fast because no one's going fast, and you don't want to get a speeding ticket, and no one's thinking about like how fast you can get there. And I feel like in America, you start a road trip and you're like, oh, it says 12 hours. Let's try to stay at 12 hours or if not beat it.
Like you're trying to see how quickly you can get there, whereas here, there's no guesswork with how quickly you can get there. It's just...
Yeah, it's like I know I'm going to get there X amount of time.
Yeah.
And everybody else is going the same speed, so I don't need to speed.
Totally.
With that being said, though, I want to bring up Aussie road rage.
Oh, man. Oh.
Australian road rage is something that I had not experienced until recently, about 2 months ago. And since then, I don't know what's been going on. I don't know what's in the water, like just in the past few months.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are more stressed than usual, but it just seems like I have had a lot of road rage. And so we have 3 stories specifically of Australian road rage that we've had happen in the past 2 months. First one is I was driving, and it was me and Grace's mom, and I was driving in Surrey Hills in Sydney, and I was going through a roundabout. Well, there's a guy to my left coming into the roundabout. As I'm going into it, I look to my right, there's no one coming. I'm going straight, I go around the roundabout, and as I'm coming to his entrance to the roundabout, he just pulls out right in front of me, really like looking at me as he does it, knows he's doing it wrong, and in this moment, I deploy the horn. Like I'm just laying on the horn, and I don't think it was like laying way too long, but it was like I let him know he made a mistake and I was not okay with it. Stops his car in the middle of the roundabout. He's like halfway between two exits, and stops. I slam on the brakes. Me, Grace, and Grace's mom are in there, and he like rolls down the window and just starts yelling at me, swearing at me, and basically blaming it all on me. Like, am I insane? Whatever. I don't know what he said. And I was like, whoa. That guy was really angry. The whole rest of the day I was thinking about like, whoa, that was pretty major road rage. And I had never experienced really road rage like that in my whole life.
The second situation, we're just going on a road that was a 50k road, so like 35 miles an hour. We're going straight. There's no one really close in front of us. We're just going along, and there's a side street where it would be a T-junction. There was a person on the side street, and they were going to turn left onto the road that we were just going straight on. So clearly we have the right of way. Well, he decides that he just wants to pull out in front of us. So he turns, completely cuts us off. We have to slam on our brakes.
Yeah, it wasn't like cutting off. It was like, if I didn't slam on the brakes, I would have smashed into him.
100%. Understandably, Sutton honks his horn. Well, this guy lost it. He opened his door, and I'm like, is he going to come over here? He opens his door, once again, stops the car on a road. There's like people behind us.
It's a busy road.
He stops the car, opens his door, and he was like, are you out of your effing mind? And just started yelling at us. And we were like, what? Like,
so we were so confused.
You're at the base of a T-junction. We have the right of way. We're the ones that are moving. You need to give way to us. But no, he didn't care. So anyway, he drives off and flips us the bird as he goes, and we just like stick our thumbs up at him. We're like, I cannot believe this happened. This is even worse than the first time.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a good, like anytime someone gives you the bird or like gets angry, yells at you, and they're not like gonna hurt you, I guess.
Yeah.
It's probably a good precursor. I feel like it only infuriates them more when you just like smile and like...
You're like good for you, buddy.
Everything in me wants to be angry back, but like we just went like this, and I think it just made him even more angry.
Yeah, I think it was funny too that we both did that.
Yeah, like
at the same time, we were like...
It's so funny.
So first we had the first thing happened to us. That was already the worst case of road rage I had seen personally.
Yeah.
Second one, it's even worse. Well, the one we experienced yesterday was worse again.
We're driving down this 3-lane road. It's like 2 separate, each side's got 3 lanes, so pretty big road with a big divider in the middle, and it's like busy traffic. I look forward and there's this truck that has like a trailer on it, and the guy was all the way in the left lane and then turned out and was backing into one of the houses to the left. And he's like blocking all the traffic, and it was like he did it in between 2 like big sections of traffic, but we were coming up on it. And the first guy that was ahead of me, so it was like one guy ahead of me and then I was kind of second guy, he stops and I stop, and then this guy's backing up, so we're like waiting on him, giving him some time to, you know, stop blocking all the lanes. And the car in front of me goes, as the truck backs up, it like
Opens up the right lane.
Yeah, opens up the right lane. So the right lane's open. He goes, and so I start to follow him. And as I start to follow him around the truck
Lurches forward.
He puts it in drive or first gear and just is like
It was
revving,
like,
coming forward.
Yeah.
As I'm in this lane, as I'm like, you know, about to pick up back to 60 Ks, and I have to slam all 4 tires. Like I'm slamming the brakes. We stop. We look over at him. He's got his window down, and he is like, before we even fully stop, he is screaming, and for like a solid like 30 seconds, he just screams. There's full-on traffic, 3 lanes of gridlock traffic behind me, watching this all happen, and this guy is screaming at me, screaming at us. And Grace, he's on the driver's side, so he's on the right side. Grace is on the left side, and he's screaming at me, but Grace is in between us, so he's just screaming like right at Grace's face.
Yep.
And yeah, we move on, and we just both were like, could not believe. It was like, he was like yelling so much, like veins coming out of his face. Like,
yeah, I was like, immediately afterwards, I said there had to have been something else going on, because he was so, like, his reaction was so far above what
it was like
normal.
It was like one of those moments where, but I think in all 3 of these moments, but specifically this one, where I was like looking around, like, what is he mad at? Because there's no way it could be me. There's no way that he's that mad about him jumping into my lane.
It was crazy.
It was insane. All right, if you've made it this far in the video, I think we're like deep. We're pretty deep. We're probably like 20, 30 minutes in this video.
Probably, yeah.
So you are dedicated, and
You're in the sticks, as they say.
yeah, last week we called it in the sticks. We said it's so deep that you needed to do like a mermaid emoji, and then we were talking about Poseidon.
Yeah, and then tridents.
And so we did trident emojis last week. But if you've made it this far, I think since we've gotten so deep in this video, you know, I think we're digging in these topics. We're like really like mining now at this point. Like we're so deep, we're like in the mines of this video.
Yes.
So if you're this far, drop a diamond emoji.
Yeah.
I was thinking
crew.
about this earlier today, and I was like, which emoji do we want people who are watching to drop at the end of this video? I think it's a diamond. I think it might be the best emoji.
Wow, that's a big call.
Like like emotion, like obviously like the face emojis are a different level, but
Yeah.
the diamond emoji is a great emoji.
You know what's my favorite one, which hasn't been around for that long,
What's
but my
your favorite
favorite one at
emoji?
the moment is the...
Yeah, the salute emoji, half the face.
It fits with so many different situations.
It is really
it's just
good.
deadpan.
It is really good.
It's so good.
Yeah, we both found out recently that millennials and Gen Z use different laughing emojis. Like,
Is that true or is it a myth? Because I have, like, most of my Gen Z friends use the same one as me, but my sister tried to tell me.
Are you a sideways laughing emoji person, or are you a just regular straight laughing
crying
emoji,
laughing face.
Crying laughing face emoji person?
Tell us, but also tell us your age,
Yeah, true.
because that'd be interesting.
All right, thanks for watching this week. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. We're going to be doing this hopefully every week, trying to keep up with it every week. And as always, thanks for stopping by.
My homies. I have no shame. Like, you can put whatever you want about me on the internet. Well,
Anything about you that I want?
well, anything that gets recorded, I'm like, it's fair game.
Wow.
Peace up.